Hi guys, and welcome back to part 6 of the Tony Ray 1/6 scale 1.5 meter Tiger Moth build. And in the last video we left it with me making the fuel tank cover. Very pleased with that, my own idea. And I said we were going to continue with the struts. So let's get on with it. First of all, gather all your components. So I've got the struts flattened out on the ends, and looking at the photographs on the instructions, identify the parts. There's 2 metal ones at the top, 2 at the bottom. They were found in this area here, down there. But study the pictures well, look at all the pictures to identify which parts are which. Now I found apart from one, they just rocked out quite easily. In fact, I'll tell you what, I show you. I just used a little pointy tool and just popped it in the hole and then just rocked it, and the part came out. So that was a bit easier. So anyway, I've got all the parts. I've filed off the little joining tabs. Now this is very clever. You get this part out here, C2. This is your jig for assembling all the parts. So I've just offered the parts up just to make sure they are all the same, and they are. And notice which way some have got 1.5 mil, some got bigger holes in. Make sure they're the right way round and orientated. And you can do that simply by putting them over the top. Now we come to the part which is very clever. Looking at the pictures, we flatten the ends and we move on to step 15, and we mark the uprights. Let's get them into 2 sets rather. So we want one long one, one medium one, one short one. Let's stop there. Long one, medium, possibly shorter. That's a short one. Medium, like that. I'm going to try using this felt tip. And what we need to do is transfer the position of the holes here directly or exactly where they need to be on here. So looking at the instructions, you'll find that your holes have to be drilled. I'm just going to mark it. Let's see, I'm going to mark that one there, and that one there. You have to be pretty accurate here. This is quite critical to get everything just right. So I've got 2 little marks on that one. I'll do the other 2. Okay. Now I need to drill these using a 1.5 mil diameter. I think what I might do is just put a little punch where they have to be drilled to stop it wandering. I think that's a good idea. I've fitted up the cabane struts onto the end of the wing. Now I'm just doing a test screw into the fuselage. On the build instructions there's a little exclamation mark next to one of the fittings, and it's just another little clip which just goes under the mounting screw and hangs down. That's for the central rigging. So if you're wondering what that exclamation mark is, it's just saying be aware that there's this little one to go in here as well.
So anyway, cracking on. That doesn't fit. Why doesn't that fit? What have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? One other thing I noticed in bolting the, I'm not sure if you can see, one other thing I noticed in bolting these in, a couple of the screw threads did have glue in it, so if you end up with a screw that won't go in, just ease it backwards and forwards, just easing it round and round, as long as you're sure the threads lined up, just ease it. With a small screwdriver then you can't put excess torque on it. Yeah, this one's a little bit closer. It's not so far out as that one, but it is out. Let me just make sure I've got these brackets the right way round. I had to redo my brackets a couple of times because it's very easy. I was all right set the first one up, but when I come to set the second one up, doing it mirror image, I was getting myself a little bit confused. I'm going to play with this, guys, and try and find out what I've done slightly wrong here, where it's slightly out, and then I'll come back to you with my findings. Let's see what I've done wrong. I've got these two transposed. This one's too long, this one's too short. So there you go, easily done. Also, it's worth noting it's not worth putting thread lock on any of this, making up the structure, because you might have to end up taking it all apart if you make a schoolboy error like I just have. Now that's that single piece I was telling you about. So that goes in, that goes in there. Although I'm taking it off again, I want to trial fit absolutely everything. Right, okay, let's have another go. So the nuts inside the fuselage are the captive ones that we squeezed in with the vise, if you recall, on part 2, I think it was, when we were making the fuselage up. Don't do them up to start with, keep them loose. Right, this now should, line up beautifully, and it does. Thought I'd made a major boo-boo. You Cliff boo-boo, surely not. Oh yes. Okay, on to the correct way round this time. There we are. I mean, it's pretty solid. It will be by the time the wings are on. There we are, guys. The centre section is on. Yeah, looks high and ungainly at the moment, but when the wings are on, it just goes to show the scale of it. Actually, the gap between the wings is huge, isn't it? Okay, so that's the cabane struts done. I think the instructions show the wings next. I don't build wings next, I build tailplane and fin next, so that's what I'm going to jump to. on the build. So it's not going to stay on because of the angle of the dangle. Need a bit of tape in there, but that gives you a real feel for it. Okay. Is that around there properly? I think it is. There we go. Goes on there. Will actually sit there a bit. Be careful with it, it won't fall off. Yeah, nice. That was starting to look quite Tiger Mothy. Right, what I think I'll do then, guys, I'll clear the bench, I'll get the plan out, and I'll get the tailplane and fin and rudder and elevators made up. I'll probably photocopy the plan if I can get them under my scanner to save an unwieldy great length of paper. Okay, see you back shortly. Ooh. What I've done, guys, is to find all the pieces for the rudder, and some of the pieces, this piece needed laminating. There's 3 pieces in total, and sanding a bit thinner at the bottom edge. So what I've done, I've glued this piece onto these laminated pieces. This piece was laminated R1 and R1A, and I've just CA'd this rib into it VR3. Because the ribs are symmetrical, what I'm doing is packing them up each side. I'm using a piece of the 1/8 ply and a bit of 1/16 balsa. It seems about the same thickness. I haven't glued anything up here yet. But what I was just thinking was I might glue that one into there, and then that will be solid enough, and I can start making up the rest. This piece instead is a bit of 1/8 square pine, which is in the kit. Should go like that. And I'll put a little bit more in for good measure, because this lightweight ply sort of soaks it up quite well. So you want to make sure it's good. Okay, so I've got that glued now. I could glue this piece. There's a slot in the R1A that it goes into. The other thing I've done is to sand the faces of all the joints, because sometimes when a laser cuts, it's not exactly flat. It tapers slightly one way or the other. And if you've got 2 pieces of wood which happen to be tapering away from each other, you end up with a gap. So what I've done, I've just sanded 90 degrees on the edge of the board just to make sure they were good fit. Now, what I'd like to do actually is to glue this piece in, get that solid. Yeah, I think I'll just run some CA in. Let's just lift that out. Run some CA in on this tongue and get that solid. I think there's some triangular bits to go on here as well, so that will be nice and strong, because there's a couple of holes here where the control horn fits. Okay, let's have a look at these triangular pieces. They are VR4. Let's just check the space place. Yeah, VR4 goes in there, right over there. It's nice. Continue with the theme of using the super glue, because I should be waiting ages for this lot to dry. I want to get it off, get on with the tailplane. or fin as well actually. One there and the fin one. Make sure you get the 90-degree bit at the bottom, else you're going to be a little bit out. And yep, that wants to have that angle sanded into it. Okay, right then, let's take it off and do the other sides, and that'll be the rudder made. Looking down, it looks okay. He said, surprised. Okay then, so let's just put these pieces in. So now we can go ahead and take a look at the fin. Now the fin is slightly confused because I've got a couple of pieces out, namely these pieces, like that. That goes in there, and there's triangular bits on here, but I couldn't find these, well, the 4 ribs really, so I'm going to go back and have another good look, and I'll come back to you. Well, basically I'll assemble it in the same way I did the rudder, and then we'll have a look at the tailplane. Cheers guys. Right, popped them off the board, and we got the fin, we got the rudder, and I've taken a photograph of it mounted, and I think it's looking really smart. Really like the look of it, and it's quite a strong fixing with the pegs going into the rear plywood, so it's a strong construction. So let's carry on, and I've got the elevator parts out, sorry, the tailplane parts out. No problems, they're all here. This is light ply, this is heavier ply, and the rest is balsa. So yeah, I've sanded off all the nibs so as it can sit flat. I don't think there's a top or bottom. So let's crack on. These slots are for hinges, by the way. So what's the best way to do this? These parts, what's this, H6? It's the longest one, I think. Nope, second longest. It's self-jigging basically. They'll go in there. 7 is in there. What I think I might do is just immerse them with CA. Simple as that. Nice fit. The reason I'm sticking it over the plan is because I want to get these leading edges precisely, because there's a small amount of adjustment available there, and I'm going to use white glue on this because I'm going out in a minute, and when I come back it'll be dry and I can continue. So white glue it is. Put plenty on that end grain there. I'll just get that up into position. Okay, let's weight it down, and we'll stop the camera there, and when I come back it'll all be nicely dry, and we can continue. Now, so it's been a few hours and I'm back, so let's lift this off like that, and we're going to assemble this. Assemble it. I can't assemble it laying down because the ribs, or this false leading edge goes halfway off the ground, so I have to assemble it in the air. Looks like a bow and arrow, doesn't it? Or bow anyway. Alright, that's quite nice. Now if we put a little packer at the front, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure they're all pushed in nice and tight. That one wasn't, just went in slightly. And I think you'll agree that looks pretty close to what we got on the table. So we'll put one there, perhaps one there. I'm just going to run CA into every single joint there. Before I do that though, I'm just going to make sure that that back edge is nice and straight. Here's a straight edge. Which it isn't, so I can give it a little pull into position like that. Okay, let's feed in the CA. I think I'll start with this one here. These two pieces will be going on the top, which I'll use white glue for. I might leave the white glue short and tack the edges because these here are the false leading edges which are glued on the front of there, and then it's this which is sanded round into a section, but it's quite thin, so I don't know how much of a section I'll get out of that. That actually is quite a strong structure, and it has support struts going down as well, so it's going to be quite strong. Right, these pieces go on. Just take the knot off them. Yep, they only go one way. Make sure the slots line up. There's also two other little bits that go in there that take the struts, and they are H11, and there's two of them, little round things. Okay, H11, I've got four of them here. How many do I need? Is it one each side? H11 is not on sheet A8. Sorry, H11 is not on sheet B12, it is on sheet A8. Alright, we'll just pop those out. So there's one each side, and for my kit, they're on sheet A. So let's just pop this one on. Right, the leading edge has to be bent around here, going from there all the way around. Before I can do that, I'm going to have to sand the square edge off of these ribs. Actually, I said earlier on these would taper down, but the false leading edge, or the leading edge rather, is to the same thickness, so it's just quite a thick wing section, and the tailplane is flat. I'll just feed in a bit of CA and we'll glue it as we go. I'm not actually going to run glue in where the little hole is, where I have to put the H11s, because I don't want to, and I'll turn it over and glue the other side. Okay, while we got this side up, let's just put on the H11s. Quite important probably to line up the hole. Okay, turn it over, do the same on the other side. Put the last one in there, and that's the tailplane built. So a bit of flexibility in there, but it's not a bad thing because it will have struts. So the whole thing I want sanding flat, and the leading edge you want to be rounded up. So here's all the parts for the elevator, and E1 and E2 look the same, but they're not quite the same. E2 has a fine line down the centre of it, that so it gives you a nice accurate line to sand the leading edge of the elevators to get the angles, and therefore that goes on the outside. These holes here accept the ribs, which will go in like that, but they're only in E1, so that definitely goes on the inside. The only thing that's the same in both, apart from the hinge slots, is these two in the front, which accept the leading edge of E3, and they'll be going straight through both. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to glue both these together. As long as they go through both pieces, everything will be fine. E3 should have a hole in both pieces according to the picture, so maybe the laser cutter hasn't cut that there. We'll find out later, won't we? It probably just is the hole for the single, I'm guessing, elevator horn, but just in case I need to drill another hole, what I think I might do is just mark the center of it now, and that will save any awkward measurings later on. Let's just glue these together and I'll weigh it down and go away for a bit, and when I come back we can crack on with the construction. The guideline goes on the outside because this is the elevators we're building. Because of the depth of these pins, I think I might put them in with white glue. Let's get these pieces pinned down and I can get them glued up. I'm not going to put the pin through the piece, apart from the fact it's quite a hard wood. I don't want to hurt my little hand. Put a bit extra on the top just for good measure. Because it's double thickness there, I think I'll put white glue on these pegs as well. In fact, it's not double thickness, is it? It's it only goes through halfway. It's very thin there. Okay, I'm going to continue putting all these in, guys. I think let's just put another one in for good fun. What's that? 5 ER5 ER4. Yeah, they're beautiful fit. So I think I'll continue as I am. Bit of white on the end. I've got stuff I can get on with. Okay, a couple of hours have gone by, so let's take the elevators off. Incidentally, I've jumped the gun here and put in these two parts, R6B either side. They'll pick up the rudder horn. They're not supposed to go in until you've sanded it, but there's no reason not to be honest, so I've put them in now, getting them off the sheet. The reason I put them in now is because they were right next to these parts which go on the elevator, so I cut those off at the same time. These blocks, absolutely excellent. I use them for lots of things. You'll see they're called engineering blocks or 321 blocks on Amazon. So what I've got to do is to CA underneath and put FE3B on underneath.
There we go. Nice. C8 wicks in pretty nicely actually. I glued the other one in with white glue, but for the sake of cracking on, I'll just use a drop of C8 on this one. It's not going anywhere. And make sure those holes are in line. I think I might finish sanding the tail feathers and offer up the hinges to make sure it works okay, which I'm sure it will, but make sure. And then the next part is going to be either the wings, or I've still got to put thread lock on the cabane struts. But yeah, look at that. Beautiful. Looking at the wings, they're big panels. It's a big wing actually. Something I noticed actually after I'd made the doors on this plan are templates for the aluminium parts, which I didn't need in the end because I just marked them straight off the aeroplane, and the sizes actually are marked on the screen. So, but they are there if you wanted them. These are the bottom wings because they've got the ailerons on them. Interestingly, the full size Moth, the ailerons don't go down, they only go up. These are metal pegs that are, I think there's two with a bit of ply between them, and then they're bound over the main spar using Kevlar thread. I'll probably use carbon thread, but I don't think they're going to take very long to make. Probably make them all easily in a morning with CA, that is, which I may or may not use on the wings. There's no rush. Beautiful. Okay, let's sand the tail feathers, check the hinges, and then clear the boards to start the wings.